As of 2023, the music industry is turning in over its head about this fancy term, Dolby Atmos. Now, whether you and I like it or not, it's not going to change the minds behind one of the biggest retailers in the world, Apple, who has been making more and more investments into the immersive technology that is giving us as producers more opportunities to get really creative with how we make music. While this is cool and all, there is a lot of misinformation online that is telling you have to buy a fully immersive setup to mix in Dolby Atmos the correct way. And for the most part, I agree with that. Now, while this is fine and dandy if you have the money to go spend on a fully immersive setup, most of us being bedroom and apartment producers don't have the space, let alone the funds, to be able to invest. So even figuring out where to begin mixing in this format can be really confusing, which is why I'm going to give you 3 affordable ways that will help you get started learning on how to mix in the immersive format, and before you have to make a heavy investment into your studio right away. Let's get started. Now, before I get into my best picks for affordability, I do want to mention that you're going to need 3 other things before you get started. A computer of some sort, preferably a MacBook, your DAW of choice, and the Dolby Atmos renderer if it's not already built into your DAW. Without any of these, you won't be able to monitor anything or play back anything with Dolby Atmos. And the options I am about to give you are going to be for learning and referencing purposes only. When you don't have the cash just laying around to throw into a studio, especially for a format that's relatively new to the music industry, let alone the space to put 11 speakers into a tiny room, especially if you're working in a bedroom or an apartment, these options can be quick ways to give you an idea of what it's like to mix in an immersive format. And be sure to stick around to the end of the video where I actually give a 4th option, which is my absolute favorite in terms of referencing Dolby Atmos. This first option on the list is especially beneficial if you are already using some kind of studio equipment, whether it be a pair of studio monitors or even a decent audio interface. What you can do is, if you already have a pair of studio monitors, you can buy 3 additional monitors and a subwoofer to at least give you a surround format of 5.1, which is how most surround sound systems are configured in most home theaters anyways. You can use any audio interface that has the capability of outputting 6 channels of audio simultaneously, like the Focusrite 18i20. Once you get your routing figured out for your computer, your DAW, and the renderer, you'll be able to get started mixing in a form of Dolby Atmos. And like I mentioned before, if you already have a pair of studio monitors, the cost up front will not be as costly. And while Dolby recommends getting speakers that match their specifications for calibration and delay and EQ, and getting the speakers loud enough to where you can do all these things, you don't necessarily have to do this. FBI, open up! It's like a stereo pair of studio monitors. Nobody's forcing anyone to get certified just because there's this fancy way of doing things. And I think Dolby realizes that, which is why they call them guidelines and not requirements. So virtually any studio monitors will work as long as it matches the outputs with your audio interface, which leads me into option number 2. Now, to add on to the first option, a second way to get more outputs without having to spend a crazy amount of money on an expensive interface solely for outputs for speakers. And if you've already considered the option that I mentioned earlier, this would be a great next step to leveling up your immersive studio when you're ready to invest more money. What you can do with most audio interfaces is connect 2 of them via ADAT in and out ports and use a combined total rather than spending extra money on an interface with extra outputs, which most of the time is all of what you're paying for anyways. The only caveat to linking them together in this manner is that you kind of lose the ability to monitor all of your outputs from a single knob. And a great workaround for this is just to use your master output fader within your DAW or within the Dolby renderer. But if your interface does allow you to use one single knob with 2 interfaces, use it. Now, you can also do something very similar without using ADAT ports by connecting multiple interfaces into your computer and creating what is called an aggregate device. Basically, what this allows you to do is connect multiple devices that are hooked up to your computer and create one digital output device that your DAW can read as a multi-output device. Now, I have tried it with actually playing back like Apple Music and stuff, and I've not had good luck with those instances, but actually using it as a mixing interface for playback is probably going to be fine for the most part. You just have to turn your monitors up and down with the master fader. Now this third option might be a bit of a shocker for some of you, and just stick with me here for a second. A pair of headphones. Now I already hear it now. Oh, you're just mixing in stereo, it's just a fancy panning, blah 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 blah. And yes, while this is not truly immersive as of right now, while renderers are still getting better at creating an immersive experience, most people that are listening on headphones don't have the fancy equipment that we have to be able to play back immersive audio. And even if they did, they probably just prefer listening in headphones regardless. But that doesn't mean you won't get any less of an immersive experience compared to stereo. What you would be using instead is a binaural rendering. And this is a different method compared to mixing music in stereo. And as these renderers improve within our listening devices and more products are released to give us a more immersive environment, it's only a matter of time before we have not only producers producing music in Dolby Atmos solely through AirPods, whether that be over ears or earbuds like we have already, but also being the preferred method of consumer playback. And speaking of Apple AirPods, my favorite way to consume and reference back in Dolby Atmos, whether it be music or film, is with the Apple AirPods Pro 2. Now, if you want to learn more on why I recommend these headphones for Dolby Atmos, click on this video here. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Which is why I am giving you... Oh no, I'm not recording. That'll do it.